Hi, my name is Autif Kamal, and this is another episode of Be Logical. In this episode of Be Logical, I'm going to talk about two states and the reactions the governors and or lieutenant governors have had there in terms of measures or programs they're considering passing in their state in response to Sandy Hook. So there's Governor Andrew Cuomo of New York, who has already signed a measure into law, and Lieutenant Governor David Dewhurst and Governor Rick Perry of Texas, who are considering a state-funded program. This is what Governor Andrew Cuomo has passed. So background checks on private sales of assault weapons, and internet sales of assault weapons would be banned in New York, and ammunition magazines will be limited from 10 to 7 bullets. Okay. And I got this information from Michael Gromley of the Associated Press. The title of his article is New York Poised to be First to Pass Post-Massacre Gun Bill. Okay, now I'm going to speculate as to what would make a background check on an assault weapon the most effective. It would have to factor in the seller, the buyer, and the firearms, all of them together. It would have to factor in the seller to make sure that, number one, it's not selling assault weapons that it should not be selling, and number two, that it's getting its weapons from a legal source. It would have to factor in the buyer to make sure that the buyer has not committed crimes with his or her weapons in the past, and it would have to consider the firearms themselves to make sure that they were not modified in any significant and possibly a fatal way. I speculate that if a background check considered all of those factors, it would be maximally effective, but at the same time I'm not going too far into detail, so I'm open to the idea that there are some details in a background check that I'm neglecting. Now, in terms of the online ban of assault weapons in New York, I can tell you how generally purchasing a weapon works. I got this image up here from Grab a Gun, and I've looked up other online gun stores, and they basically follow the same process. You go to their website, you choose a firearm, you add it to your cart, and include your address. But you have to locate an FFL dealer, ideally one that's closest to you. FFL stands for Federal Firearm License. Then you have to have your dealer email or fax their address to the online gun store that you're making the purchase from, and then they ship your firearm to the dealer's address, and you go to the dealer to pick up your firearm. Now, I think how this would differ in New York is that if you try to have an assault weapon shipped to the indicated dealer, then if they do receive an assault weapon, then they won't allow you to pick it up. They'll send it back to the dealer. That's what I'm guessing is what would happen, but I can't be sure because I'm just speculating, and I've never really purchased a firearm before. Now, I think this would be effective in the sense that I think you have a lot more variety, and it's a lot easier to find things online in places like Amazon and eBay than, say, going from store to store to find for example, the firearm that you want. I'm not saying that you can purchase firearms on Amazon or eBay, but what I am saying is that there's probably tons of online gun stores which help you find the exact firearm that you want and then just have it sent to you, rather than having you run all around town searching for the firearm that you want and then taking the time to purchase it. So I think in that way, banning the online sales of assault weapons would be a deterrent to purchase assault weapons. Now, in terms of limiting ammunition for magazines from 10 to 7 bullets, I have a few conditional propositions to illustrate the value of that. So if you have less bullets, that means you can kill less people, so it's effective in that way. And then also, if you have less bullets, that means then you have to reload your gun more often. And if you have to reload your gun, then you have less time to shoot. So I think in those three ways, limiting the number of bullets that go in a magazine would be effective in limiting the killing capacity of an assault weapon. But at the same time, in episode 13, I gave you data which basically explain that the most deaths do not happen by assault weapons, they happen by handguns. Okay, so on the assumption that deaths do occur by assault weapon, then limiting ammunition magazines would be effective. Okay, now what Lieutenant Governor David Dewhurst, I have a typo there, and Governor Rick Perry, they want to initiate a state-funded program for gun training for both teachers and administrators. And how it would work is that you wouldn't have every single teacher and administrator at a school with a gun. They would assign particular faculty of a school would be assigned to hold a gun. Okay, and also this would be optional. If a district did not want to opt into this program, they wouldn't have to. Now, I've been working in schools for a while. I've been working in schools for about a couple of years, and generally an elementary school has about 400 to 500 students, and I'm skeptical about the effectiveness of this program because number one, in a time of crisis, I think it's more likely that mistakes will be made, that the wrong people will be shot, and for that reason you may have too many possible victims. And also, what do you think like faculty and students mean to a shooter on a school campus? I think that what those people mean to a shooter is like, oh look, there's cover for me, because then they can hide behind the kids, they can hide behind the faculty if they ever get in a position to. Okay, so those are the reasons why I think a state-funded program for gun training would be ineffective. And also, I'm getting this information about this state-funded program from Liz Goodwin of the Yahoo News, who wrote the article, Blue State Governors Not Waiting on Washington to Pass Gun Laws. Also, I just want to make a general note. So on December 25th of 2012, I went with my brother in Canada to this Christmas party. I talked a little bit of politics with one of his friends, and I was saying how what I heard from the Young Turks, from Cenk and Anna, was that because of how heavily regulated Japan's guns were, and I think they were actually banned in Japan, that they only had 11 deaths by a firearm in the last year, whereas the US had around 11,000. So I stated that, and his response was that something else that I need to consider was that the culture in both the US and Japan is different, and that's another reason why there may be like less deaths in Japan than the US. And while I think like not having guns available makes it much more difficult to kill someone, I also agree with the idea that if a culture was such that having a gun was not valued in the first place, then that would also lead to less deaths. But how you make a culture not value guns so much is another question, and what exactly the state of America's gun culture is I think one that I think would take some time to explain with precision. Okay, and that's it. Alright, thank you.